Hi, everybody. We're going to continue our travel journey. It's wonderful. We don't even have to pack, although I wish we really could pack and go somewhere. I'm going to flip my screen over and we'll get to the presentation so that we can take our journey. It is really interesting how Broadway musicals really do depend for plot devices on the places that they're set in. And I know we sort of left in the middle of Paris last week. I'm moving this out of the way again. We left in the middle of Paris last week, and I want to come back to them because American in Paris really raised the bar on choreography in the modern musical. Christopher Wheeldon, who, the great ballet impresario, and Robert Fairchild, I mean, was like airborne in the way they caught him. They took the 1950 Academy Award winning movie and really updated it and modernized it so that it made more logical sense. Paris in 1946, after the war, was not necessarily that comfortable of a place. But yet the atmosphere, I mean, obviously it was set in Paris because they wanted to create a ballet out of the American in Paris. Uh, this was Gene Kelly's original idea to that composition could be a great ballet sequence. Somebody is unmuted. I'm not sure who that is. Maybe you can help me with that. But in any event, American in Paris really captured the atmosphere of Paris in 1946. The fact that people still didn't trust each other, they didn't know who to really believe. They thought that maybe there were remnants left from the wartime period. So here they caught the great atmosphere, and here's just a couple of moments from that truly wonderful event that happened 5 years ago.
She's made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Most wonderful, marvelous that she should care for me.
One of the interesting things about An American Paris was the use of the backdrops that were from photography. It really was a brilliant recreation of Paris at the time, and it really gave the mood of what it was all about.
The next nominee for Best Musical features breathtaking choreography, blended with the timeless songs of George and Ira Gershwin. Set in Paris, at the end of World War II, it involves a young American soldier turned artist and a beautiful French dancer who meet in the romantic City of Lights. Their uplifting love story is told through ballet, modern jazz, tap, and a wonderfully witty book. Please welcome Tony nominees Robert Fairchild, Leanne Cope, Brandon Uranowitz, Max von Essen, and the company of An American in Paris.
From now on, lady, I insist. For me, no other girls exist. It's wonderful, marvelous. She should wear for me. Soft eyes, paradise. It's what I love to see. She's the twilight so marvelous. You can't blame me for feeling ours. Was wonderful, marvelous, that she should care for me. I got music, I got my gal who could ask for anything more. Open road, I don't mind it. In Mumbai, all night long. I got starlight, I got 60s, I got my gal who could ask for anything more. Who could ask for anything more?
You'll notice that the projections that were continually on the move behind the cast really created a mood that looked as if they really were in Paris. Well, now we're going to travel about a 4-hour plane ride. We're going to go to Moscow. We're going to go, Moscow? What kind of musicals were set in Moscow? Well, believe it or not, actually, there was a Dr. Zhivago musical, but we won't worry about that. But Moscow really had the setting of one of the most brilliantly conceived, uniquely different musicals that I think I've ever seen. It was Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. They took the entire inside of the Imperial Theater. This was an immersive theater experience, something truly pioneered by the theater in London, where the audience sits among the actors. And in this case, it was as if you were in a grand salon, and the actors were everywhere in the theater. It starred Josh Groban in a very complex, almost totally sung musical, where the actors also, even at times, played their own instruments. It was brilliantly conceived. In fact, it really did feel like you were in Moscow. They handed out pierogies when you came in, and there were rattles that you were given to participate with the orchestra at the time. It has a bit of a scandal attached to it because it was highly, highly successful in its early run. And when Josh Groban's contract was up, they cast a secondary lead from Hamilton to take over the part, a person of color. And the problem was he was not selling tickets. So they decided to cast Mandy Patinkin in a limited run to see if that would help. And then there was this big issue that Mandy Patinkin took the part away from a person of color. Well, the irony was it never was cast in the part with a person of color. And this created all kinds of big undertones that became very quickly amplified. In addition to which, the producer, who was a hedge fund guy, had some troubling accounting issues associated with the books. So the show had an early demise. When it was reviewed, it opened the year after Hamilton. It was even said to be better than Hamilton. It was quite a performance, quite an entertainment, and this will give you an idea as it was shown on the Tonys.
The final nominee for Best Musical features a thrilling mix of rock, pop, soul, folk, electronic dance music, and classic Broadway. Inspired by a 70-page slice of War and Peace, the immersive staging of this unforgettable, epic story brings us just inches from the performers as they light up Broadway in an experience like no other. Nominated tonight for 12 Tony Awards, please welcome nominees Josh Groban, Denée Benton, Steele, and the company of Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812.
They say we are asleep until we fall in love. We are children of dust and ashes. But when we fall in love, we wake up, and we are a god and angels weep. But if I die here tonight, I die in my sleep. They say we are asleep until we fall in love. And I'm so ready to wake up now. We've had our fun, lived, laughed, and loved. Friends of my youth, when shall we meet again? I'm going abroad.
Goodbye, my gypsy lovers. All my rebels here are over. Well, goodbye, once the ocean kissed me one last time. Whoa, remember me to stay strong. There, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Wish me luck, my gypsy lovers. Now goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Here's to happiness, freedom, and life. May your travels be swift as a sight come through the grass. May your sorrows be counted and number as many as drops of wine and vodka that stirs my glass. Simon Hiroshima, napoza sopa e kali. Simon Hiroshima, napoza sopa e kali. Simon Hiroshima, napoza sopa e kali.
Now, if that didn't give you the sense that you were actually in Moscow, I don't know what would have. It was a brilliant production. The technology and the stagecraft that went into it was unlike anything that I think most people had ever seen. Quite frankly, it was up against a couple of real heavy hitters. It's up against Come From Away. It was up against Dear Evan Hansen. And I think in the scope of things, it really was a better production. But, you know, that was really heavy-duty competition that year. and the cost of keeping the Great Comet running was exorbitant compared to the other two. Now we're going to travel back across Europe and we're going to go to London. London, the home of so many musicals, and ironically, the very first musical that ever attracted us to London as a locale, an American musical, I would say, is Peter Pan. Peter Pan was really destined to become a movie. It was a musical that was created for Mary Martin, where they were going to tour the United States, bring it to New York, and then Paramount was going to film it as a movie, but not with Mary Martin. Mary Martin's husband, Richard Halliday, was a little concerned about that because this was the part of a lifetime for Mary. And what happens is NBC and Paramount, who was the partner, NBC had some shenanigans throughout Paramount. And of course, Peter Pan was staged then on television. NBC felt more people would see Peter Pan on television than would ever see it in a movie. And it was done for the first time in 1955 in black and white. Getting Peter Pan airborne was tricky. And it was Jerome Robbins who actually figured that out, got Mary Martin airborne, and defined a classic for a generation of television kids. Now, Mary Martin, we of course know, did a lot of other parts, but it's Peter Pan that people seem to remember her for the most.
Can you really fly?
I'll teach you. How lovely to fly.
I'll teach you how to jump on the wind's back, and away we'll go.
Ooh.
One day when you're sleeping in your silly bed, you might be flying about with me, saying funny things to the stars.
How do you do it?
You just think lovely, wonderful thoughts, and up you go. I'm flying. I'm flying. Look at me way up high, such me. Here am I, I'm flying.
Now, this version of Peter Pan that you just watched was the third airing of Peter Pan. Actually, the first was in 1955. It was in black and white, and it was done on a kinescope. The second, it was done in color in 1956, but there was no color videotape. As color television progressed in usage, the Richard Halliday was continually negotiating with NBC, where Mary had a contract to do 4 television specials a year. And her thought was that Peter Pan would become something that would be seen on an annual basis, much like The Wizard of Oz was at that time period. Unfortunately, their negotiations really went into hyperdrive, and in 1960, it was refilmed with color videotape, again, with the idea that it would be shown annually. After that first videotape showing of the one that you just saw, Richard Halliday, Mary Martin's husband, started to negotiate with NBC once again, only to have it aired twice more. They only could agree on 2 showings, and after 1965, when it was shown for the third and last time, it was never shown with Mary Martin on television again. Now, My Fair Lady was the first musical of its kind, something based upon a British play, although you could say Peter Pan, but My Fair Lady was based upon British sensibilities, the Shaw's comedy of manners over the women trying to take charge of their lives, written in 1912 London. My Fair Lady itself was a very complicated story because it's the very first time that British theater became such an important part of American culture. Although you could say, well, what about Peter Pan? Well, yes, we could agree with that, but My Fair Lady really puts British sensibility, British manners, and the British class system on view for Americans in a popular musicalization written by Americans. Everyone wanted to try to musicalize Pygmalion, but the fact that there was not really a central love story with a primary group of characters and a secondary love story with secondary characters, that was the format of the time. No one could quite figure out how to do this until Lerner and Loewe watched the 1937 movie of Pygmalion with Leslie Howard and Wendy Hiller, that they saw the possibilities. The other interesting piece of this was Rex Harrison was nobody's first choice for Henry Higgins. They went first to Peter Sellers, they went to Noel Coward, they went to Richard Attenborough. I mean, if you were English and you were an actor of stature, they went to you. Rex Harrison had turned down The King and I after making Anna and the King of Siam, and he could not picture that he would actually ever sing on stage in a Broadway musical. In 1961, Ed Sullivan wanted to celebrate the success of My Fair Lady and it's running more performances on Broadway than Oklahoma by dedicating an entire Sunday night of the Ed Sullivan Show to My Fair Lady, where instead they split it between My Fair Lady and Camelot. And this is a recreation of Wouldn't It Be Loverly from that 1961 televised event.
Looking at this program here with Rex Harrison, Julie on the cover of it. It was presented for the first time on March 15th, 1956 at the Mark Hellinger Theater, New York, produced by Herman Levin and directed by Moss Hart. That particular March 15th always going to be an historic date in show business.
Well, actually, Ed, March has always been a particularly lucky month for us. Both Brigadoon and My Fair Lady opened in March.
You know, My Fair Lady forever will endure in stage history as one of the classics of show business.
Based on George Bernard Shaw's play, Pygmalion, My Fair Lady took the theater world by storm. Overnight, a superstar was born in the person of Julie Andrews, who played the role of Eliza Doolittle.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Well, sure, just stand up, gentlemen. We got a bloomin' Addis in our midst.
Would you be looking for a good butler, Eliza?
Find you gotta do.
It's rather dull in town. I think I'll take me to Paris.
The missus wants to open up the Carsal in Capri. Me doctor recommends a quiet summer by the sea.
Wouldn't it be lovely?
Where are you bound this spring, Eliza? Biarritz?
All I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair. Wouldn't it be lovely? Lots of chocolate for me to eat, lots of coal making lots of it, warm face, warm hands, warm feet. Wouldn't it be lovely? Oh, so lovely, sitting absolutely still. I would never budge till spring crept over me windowsill. Someone's head resting on my knee, warm and tender as he can be, who takes good care of me. How wouldn't it be lovely, 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 lovely?
All I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair.
How wouldn't it be lovely? Lots of chocolate for me to eat, lots of coal making lots of it, warm face, warm hands, warm feet. How wouldn't it be lovely? Oh, so lovely, sitting absolutely still. I would never budge till spring crept over me windowsill.
Someone's head resting on my knee, warm and tender as he can be,
Who takes good care of me? How wouldn't it be lovely,
lovely,
What we also have to realize is this was the very first musical that focused on British classism, British manners, British sensitivity. Oliver, of course, was the first Dickens novel that was made into a Broadway musical. No one really thought a Dickens novel would work as a musical for the American public, although it had been successful in London. It actually toured the United States for a year before it landed on Broadway. And this was because David Merrick, the producer, wanted to make sure that people were going to hear about it and become familiar with it. Its scenic design was very interesting, with large wooden towers that would move and shape the the images of London during the industrial era. Of course, the plot of Oliver was simplified for musical storytelling, and the use of Fagin as a character was somewhat made as a comic villain so that he would be more palatable to storytelling in the 1960s.
What you staring at? Ain't you never seen the top? Come. So, mate, I suppose you want some place to sleep tonight, don't you? Well, don't worry, I know just the place. Fagin!
You summoned me, dear boy. You summoned. I can smell rich pickings here tonight, don't you? Who's this?
I brought a new friend to see you. Oliver Twist. Sir.
I expect you've come to London to seek your fortune, Master Twist. Well, we'll have to see what we can do to help you, eh, boys?
Right, Fagin, just a little.
You see, Oliver, in this life, one thing counts. In the bank, large amounts. I'm afraid these don't grow on trees. You've got to pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two. Boys, you've got to pick a pocket or two.
Large amounts don't grow on trees. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
Let's show Oliver how to do it, my dears. Come along, Oliver, you stay there. Why should we break our backs stupidly paying tax? Better get some untaxed income. Better pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two, boys. You've got to pick a pocket or two. Watch and learn.
Like the way you're bright now, Max. Here's a pick a pocket or two.
Who said crime doesn't pay? Robin Hood, what a crook, gave away what he took. Charities fine, subscribe to mine. Get out and pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two, boys. Missed. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
Robin Hood was far too good. He had to pick a pocket or two.
Merry men indeed. Take a tip from Bill Sykes. He can whip what he likes. I recall he started small. He had to pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two, boys. Oh, you've got to pick a pocket or two.
Green would be like all their sights. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
Winded me, Oliver. Winded me. And there, old gent, passing by, something nice takes his eye. Everything's clear, attack the rear. Get in and pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two, boys. I'm naked now. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
And the rear attack the rear. Get in and pick a pocket or two.
When I see someone rich, both my thumbs start to itch. Only to find some peace of mind. You've got to pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two, boys. There. Up down there. Right, okay. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
Cause to find some peace of mind,
We have to pick a pocket or
Now, what's interesting about Oliver again is it starts to show the harshness of the industrialization era in England when Dickens wrote the novel. These were unique firsts in the period of time in which these musicals were created. Half a Sixpence was the next musical of its type, again, based upon a British H.G. Wells novel about a Cockney who inherits a fortune. And it starred the British Hall phenomenon, Tommy Steele. Half a Sixpence was almost a forgotten musical until it was revived about a year ago in London, where it was greatly successful. Cameron McIntosh producing it. But maybe one of the most infamous musicals based upon true events, perhaps, in London is Sweeney Todd, maybe one of the greatest musicals ever written. And I know people are probably wincing as I say that, but it's truly a brilliant piece of musical theater with brilliantly drawn characters, outstanding lyrics, magnificent melodies, and of course the subject matter, that of an individual's plot to take revenge and how it wreaks havoc on society. It is considered to be Stephen Sondheim's masterpiece, not that most of his aren't, and it won every major award in the year that it premiered in 1979. It too focuses on British intolerance, the fact that the legal system was used manipulatively to send people to Australia for minor crimes so that the British government could populate Australia is part of the story. And in fact, what is the catalyst for Sweeney Todd was this young barber who had a very pretty wife and a judge who caught her eye, and Sweeney Todd was sent away on trumped-up charges to Australia, and 15 years later manages to get back, searching for his wife and to find out what happened to his daughter.
What you rush, what you hurry? You gave me such a fright. I thought you was a ghost half a minute. Can't you sit you down, sit? All I meant is that I haven't seen a customer for weeks. Did you come in for a pie, sir? Do forgive me if me head's a little vague. What is that? But you think we had the plague? From the way the people keep avoiding, now you don't. Heaven as I try, sir. Ugh, but there's no one comes in even to inhale. Right you are, sir. Would you like a drop of ale? Mind you, I can't hardly blame them. These are probably the worst pies in London. I know what it takes to take them. I should know and make them that good now. The worst pies in London. Even that's polite, the worst pies in London. If you doubt it, take a bite. Is that just disgusting? You have to concede it. It's nothing but crusting. You drink this, you need it. The worst pies in London. And no wonder with the price of meat what it is when you get it. Never thought I'd live to see the day. Men think it was a treat, fighting poor animals. What a day in the street. Mrs. Mooney has a pie shop. Does a business, but I've noticed something weird. Lately all her neighbours' cats have disappeared. I have to hand it to her, what I calls enterprise. Popping pussies into pies, wouldn't do in my shop. Just the thought of it's enough to make you sick. And I'm telling you that pussycats is quick. Now denying times is hard, sir. Even harder than the worst pies in London. Only Lord and nothing more, it's not just revolting or greasy and gritty. It looks like it's molting and tastes like, well, pity a woman alone with a limited wind. And the worst pies in London, ah, sir, times is hard, times is hard.
One of the, the way it captures the industrial era of the 1850s in London is brilliant. And then here's a different version of it. Patti LuPone in a version where the actors and the actresses actually played their own instruments.
But you know me. Bright ideas just pop into me head, and I keep thinking. Seems a downright shame.
Shame.
Seems an awful waste. Such a nice plump frame. What's his name? Has. Nor it can't be traced. Business needs a lift. That's to be erased. Think of it as thrift, as a gift, if you get my drift. Now, seems an awful waste. I mean, with the price of meat, what it is, when you get it, if you get it. Good, you got it. Take for business never better, using only pussycats and toast. Now a pussy's good for maybe 6 or 7 at the most. And I'm sure they can't compare as far as taste.
Mrs. Lovett, what a charming notion, eminently practical and yet appropriate as always. Mrs. Lovett, how I've lived without you all these years, I'll never know.
Think
How
about
dear
it.
I-
Lots of other gentlemen are becoming more ashamed.
The sound of the world out there.
Mr. Todd, what is that sound?
Those crunching noises pervading the air.
Yes, Mr. Todd, yes, all around.
It's man devouring man, my dear. And who are we to deny it here? These are desperate times, Mrs. Lovett, and desperate measures must be taken.
Here we are, hot from the oven.
What is that?
It's priest. Have a little priest.
Is it really good?
That it's too good, at least. Then again, they don't commit sins or the flesh, so it's pretty fresh.
Awful lot of fat.
Only where it's sat.
Haven't you got poet or something like that?
Now you see the trouble with poet is how do you know it's deceased? Try the priest.
Heavenly! Well, not as hearty as bishop, perhaps, but they're not as bland as curate either.
And good for business. Always leaves you wanting more. Trouble is, we only get it in Sundays. Lawyer's rather nice.
If it's for a price.
Or does something else though to follow, since no one should swallow it twice.
Anything that's lean.
But then if you're British and loyal, you might enjoy Royal Marine. Anyway, it's clean, though of course it tastes of wherever it's been.
Is that squire on the fire?
Close enough, so look closer, you'll notice it's grosser.
Looks thicker, more like thicker.
No, it has to be grosser, it's green.
The story of the world, my love.
Save a lot of graves, do a lot of relatives favor.
Is those below serving those up above?
Everybody shakes, so there should be plenty of flavor.
How gratifying for once to know that those above will serve those down below.
See, we've got Tinker,
No, something pinker.
Taylor,
Something paler.
Potter,
Something hotter.
Butler,
Something subtler.
Locksmith. Lovely bit of clock.
Maybe for a lark.
Then again, this sweep if you want it cheap and you like it dark. Try the financier, peak of his career.
That looks pretty rank.
Well, he drank. No, it's bank cashier. Never really sold. Maybe it was old.
Have you any beetle?
Next week, so I'm told. Beetle isn't bad till you smell it and notice how well it's been greased. Steak caprice. Now this may be a bit stringy, but then of course it's fiddle player.
No, this isn't fiddle player. It's piccolo player.
How can you tell?
It's piping hot.
Then blow on it first.
Story of the world, my sweet.
Oh, Mr. Todd, what does it tell?
Is who gets eaten and who gets to eat.
And Mr. Todd, who gets to sell?
But fortunately, it's also clear
that everybody goes down well with beer. Since Marine doesn't appeal to you, how about Rear Admiral?
No, it's too salty. I prefer general.
With or without his privates? With his extra?
What is that?
It's fop, finest in the shop. Or we have some shepherd's pie peppered with actual shepherd on top. And I've just begun. Here's the politician so oily, it's served with a doily, not one.
Put it on a bun. Well, you never know if it's going to run.
Try that fryer, fried it's drier.
No, the clergy is really too coarse and too mealy.
An actor that's compacted.
Yes, and always arrives overdone. I'll come again when you have judge on the menu.
Wait, true. We don't have judge yet, but we've got something you might fancy even better.
What is that?
Executioner!
Have charity towards the world, my pet.
Yes, I know, my love.
We'll take the customers that we can get.
High-born and low, my love.
We'll not discriminate great from small. No, we'll serve anyone, meaning anyone, and to anyone at all.
One of the great things about seeing a Sondheim revival is that everyone in the audience who goes, I say most of the people in the audience that go, truly love the lyrics and they know what's going to happen in advance. That scene captures the most evil person maybe ever written in a musical. For her own personal issues, she sends Sweeney Todd out on a murderous revenge. And it's just brilliant black comedy and song. Well, Cats, truly as British as it gets, based upon the T.S. Eliot poem collection, had an interesting story behind it. For years, people wanted to set it to music, but there was a clause in the T.S. Eliot estate that every single poem had to be used, or Cats could not be converted into a musical. Well, it was complicated because they couldn't quite figure out how to connect the stories. What, these poems, what was the anchor that would hold them together? When ultimately Cameron Mackintosh and discovers a couplet written by T.S. Eliot, which became the song Memory, and Trevor Nunn, after they expand the poetry, they create a character who's not in the poems at all. Her name is Grisabella, a cat that is shunned by her community. Cats ran for 7,000 plus performances. You either loved it, or as the New York Times said at times, you wanted to curl up and take a cat nap. But it was revolutionary in its design. It was a totally sung-through musical, and it was the first of the big British musical extravaganzas that began in the 1980s.
Are you blind when you're born? Can you see in the dark?
Dare you look at a king?
Would you sit on his throne?
Can you save your bite that it's worse than your bone?
Are you cock of the walk?
When you're walking alone,
Because jellicles can and jellicles do. Jellicles do and jellicles can. Jellicles can and jellicles do. Jellicles do and jellicles can. Jellicles can and jellicles do.
we can dive through the air like a flying trapeze.
We can turn double somersaults, bounce on a tire.
We can run up a wall.
We can swing through the trees.
We can balance on bars. We can walk on a wire.
Jellicles can and jellicles do. 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 Jellicle songs for jellicle cats. Jellicle songs for jellicle cats. Jellicle songs for jellicle cats. Jellicle songs for jellicle cats.
Can you sing at the same time in more than one key? Duets by Rossini
And waltzes by Strauss. And can you, as cats do, begin with a C? And always triumphant, it brings down the house. The mystical divinity of unashamed femininity. Round the cathedral, rang violet. Life to the everlasting cat. Feline, fearless, faithful and true to others who do what jellicles do and jellicles can. Jellicles can and jellicles do. Jellicle cats and jellicle chats. Jellicles all and jellicles do. Jellicle songs and jellicle cats. Jellicle songs for 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 jellicle cats. Practical cats, dramatical cats, pragmatical cats, fanatical cats, oratorical cats, delphicorical cats, skeptical cats, dyspeptical cats, romantical cats, pedantical cats, critical cats, parasitical cats, allegorical cats, metaphorical cats, statistical cats, and mystical cats, political cats, hypocritical cats, clerical cats, hysterical cats, cynical cats, rabbinical cats. Jellicle songs for jellicle 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 cats.
Memory, turn your face to the moonlight. Let your memory lead you. Open up, enter in. If you find there the meaning of what happiness is, then a new life will begin. Sunlight through the trees in summer, endless masquerading, like a flower as the dawn is breaking. The memories fading. Touch me, it's so easy to leave me.
You touch me, you'll understand what happiness is. Look, a new day has begun.
Let me tell you an interesting background story. That is Betty Buckley in the part of Grisabella. Originally, the part in London was cast for Judi Dench, but Judi Dench tore a ligament and was not able to take the part. And what happens next is they give the part to Elaine Page. When the play was coming to the United States, they cast Betty Buckley in the part, but Cameron Mackintosh and Trevor Nunn were just not happy with the portrayal of Grisabella that she was creating. And Cameron Mackintosh says to Trevor Nunn, you've got to do something or we bring Elaine Page over to do it. And what he does is tells the cast to shun Betty Buckley whenever they're together. If she comes to join you at lunch, get up and move. If she wants to join you for a cup of coffee, get up and leave. Don't talk to her backstage. Totally ignore her. And he wanted Grisabella's character to have a feeling of what it must be like to be shunned. The song being so important to the overall texture of the play. Well, on the night of the final dress rehearsal, Trevor Nunn, who was the director, then does maybe one of the most hideous director things you could do. But he walks up to Betty Buckley just as she's about to make her entrance, and he says to her, why I cast you is a mystery to me. I cannot imagine what I saw in you to think that you would be able to carry this performance. Imagine hearing that as you're about to walk out on stage and sing a song that everyone knows is coming. She was devastated, and the tone in her voice and the way she was shaking truly suddenly created the part and the character that Trevor Nunn was looking for. He waited for her in the wings, and when she came off, he said, you know, Betty, I hated to do that to you, but you finally got it. That's what I want you to do every night. Talk about method acting. Oh, my God. Me and My Girl was another British import. Most of the British musicals always seem to focus on class distinction and, snobbishness and so forth. And this musical in 1987 had never been performed in London. It won many Tony Awards, and this will give you a sense. Again, London having to be the setting because of the way the story is told.
Now listen, you could no more walk the Lambeth way than we could walk the Mayfair way. You know, Lambeth, you've never seen. The skies ain't blue, the grass, it ain't green. It hasn't got the Mayfair touch, but, well, that don't matter very much. We play a different way, not like you, but a bit more gay. When we have a bit of fun, oh boy. Anytime you'll Lambeth way, any evening, any day, you'll find us all doing the Lambeth walk. Oi! Every little Lambeth gal with a little Lambeth pal, you'll find us all doing the Lambeth walk. Oi! Everything free and easy, just as you know well, please. Why don't you make your way there? Go there, stay there. Once you get down Lambeth way, every evening, every day, you'll find yourself doing the Lambeth walk. Oi!
Anytime you're Lambeth way, any evening, any day, you'll find
That was a Tony Award winning moment. Kinky Boots, another musical set in a British shoe factory outside of London, really talked about equality and celebrating people's differences. It won, as a big surprise, it won the Tony Award that year for Best Musical. A musical again. London has been far ahead of the States in presenting characters of color, gay characters, and it didn't disappoint here with Kinky Boots.
Sorry to disappoint, but we've only got the breath for one number.
And we used it up on the walk out. But we'll let you enjoy our sparkly platforms and our fabulous spandex. I let out the seams.
We are wearing these fantastic boots to introduce a number from the high-heeled musical about an unlikely pair who join forces to save a shoe factory and find out they have more in common than they ever dreamed possible.
As they work together to turn the factory around and be true to themselves, they discover that sometimes the best way to fit in is to stand out.
Let's hear it for Kinky Boots!
Well, boss, is this what you had in mind?
Yeah. Throw out the old way, 'cause it's been done.
We're getting ready for the new.
Witness the future of Price and Son.
Oh, Papa's got a brand new shoe. I like the broken heels, got you down.
Got your solution.
Get up, get it on,
and get in step
with our kinky revolution.
Let me hear you say yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Yeah. Say yeah. Yeah. Say yeah.
Welcome to our future. No longer are we making shoes. We are making 2.5 feet of irresistible tubular sand. So let's do it. Picture this, a glamorous fashion exhibition.
I see flashbulb lights and fashion heights. I see present television. Everybody say yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our niche market.
Kinky Boots was up against that year the musical Matilda, another a British musical, but the idea that Kinky Boots, Lola, the main character portrayed by Billy Porter, a drag queen, and how he helped reinvent the shoe company, it really had great messaging, and people really did respond to it. I want to show you one last British musical set in London and why it had to be set there. A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder was somewhat based on an older Alec Guinness movie about the seventh Earl, the seventh descendant to the Earl of Dicecliff, and how he sets out to kill all of the people who are ahead of him in the line so that he can inherit the title. Part of the conceit is the character in the red coat plays all seven of the heirs to the title. And this is a wonderful scene that comes next. Again, set in the system of London classism and the peerage and those who aren't.
I am proud to stand among the dull-witted of Broadway. I mean, just to look at your needy, desperate faces makes me want to spread my largesse. Oh, I say, what do you think you're doing? Yes, well, I'm here to introduce a number from this smart and hilarious new musical about a charming chap who's killing all his relatives so that he can inherit a magnificent fortune. Oh, I say there. In this scene, Monty Navarro's enjoying a tryst with his very married mistress, Sibella, when the virtuous Phoebe arrives quite unexpectedly with the answer to a question Monty has yet to pose. I give you Best Musical nominee, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
Who could that be?
I haven't the foggiest. Quick, go into the bedroom. Shut the door.
Yes.
Be very still.
I decided to marry you. I decided to marry you. I decided though Henry's gone that life goes on for me. I have thoroughly thought it through, and the man that I want is you. Though it's true there are quite a few who strongly disagree. Nonetheless, I will marry you. I confess that I'm frightened too, but unless I am wrong, you long for love as much as I. This is quite unconventional, I admit, but why should that matter a whit? And if you do not say yes at once, I think I'll die.
Miss Dicecliff, you've rendered me speechless. May I call you Phoebe?
What am I doing here? This could be dangerous if I'm discovered. Imagine the scandal, and I couldn't handle a scandal so visible. I'll stay invisible, still as can be. But what's going on in there? I can hear voices, I recognize Monty, but is that a woman? And if that's a woman, then what is she doing here? Is it the cousin I wish I could see? If it's that cousin, it might just be business. It's family business, and none of my business. But why is she here in the home of a bachelor? Of course, one could point out that I'm here as well, but does she not realize this situation puts her reputation severely in question? The merest suggestion could cause a sensation, and I cannot hear, which is hell. Oh, not to marry you. I could go home. I'll be scorned if I marry you. I should go. Still, I decided to live my life and be a wife again. Who believe how my life is I should be off. After grieving my quickly, he makes me laugh. There is nothing can bend the will like half a steel man. And there's goodness to spare in you. Isn't this fun? And the gentleness there in you. Isn't she done? You have taken a wounded bird and taught her how to fly. This is quite unconventional, is it not? Rather a turn in the plot. And so will I be your fiancé. Why don't you send the cow away?
Phoebe, darling.
When I behold this day, I think I'll cry.
Go!
What was that?
What was what?
That sound. Is there someone here?
Oh, pay no attention. That's my new manservant. He's just finding his way around. I'll be with you in a moment. Wadsworth! Isn't this madness? Who could foresee how one trick of timing could ruin it all? One in the parlor, one in the bedroom, nothing between them but me and a wall. Look at Phoebe, noble and pious, my esteem for only grows. But when I am with Phoebe, I am on fire, thinking of Sibella, full of desire, passion, and dare I say it, love. But when I'm with Sibella, whom do I admire? None but Phoebe, perfect and lovely. Who couldn't love her, heaven knows. Round and round it goes. How happy I'd be to be at your disposal. My darling, of course I accept your proposal.
Now we should kiss.
That would be bliss.
Darling, but first I'll say this. I decided to marry you.
Phoebe.
I decided to marry you. I pressed forward for and set me free.
Isabel, oh yes, I'd be honored to marry you.
Monty, Monty, look what you've done to me. Monty, 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 Monty.
I'm grateful indeed for your gracious bestowment. Yes, Wadsworth, I told you. Be just a moment.
Now, Monty dear, I think I know what you do. Oh, but I still want to marry you.
Even so.
I decided to marry you. Just go.
How I'm longing to marry you. Yes, I'm delighted to marry you, marry you, marry us. She must go.
The whole conceit was truly brilliant, with the one actor playing all of the different family members that were going to be murdered, who mysteriously died anyway. But in any event, I hope that it was fun. I mean, frankly, we could go on. I have places in Italy that we could visit. I have places in Spain that we can visit. Certainly Buenos Aires, where we would see Evita. But all of these places were really important to the settings and the stories that these musicals conveyed. I'd love to answer some questions if there are any. I don't see anything in the chats necessarily. Oh, maybe I do. So hold on. Let me look at the chats real quick. If anybody has anything, I'm also going to type my email in. So that's there. If you're loving these musical lectures, you know, I have been doing a Friday morning Zoom subscription series since last April. And if any of you are interested in being a part of that, certainly write to me and I'll tell you what the story is. But we'd love to have you join. It's at 10:30 on Friday morning. A lot of people are coming in for that because it's something else to do. Again, my email is there. I'm here waiting just in case anybody wants to ask anything. I think someone just turned the microphones on. I don't see any hands going up or...
How?
Is that a question that I hear?
Question.
Go ahead.
How did they get in Peter Pan the Mary Martin to fly the children, flying around?
Before the scene, well, Jerome Robbins figured up the rigging, and before the scene starts, they have the wires on, and they're wearing a harness under their costumes. And what Jerome Robbins did, in fact, it didn't always work. And there was one time when Mary Martin fell off 12 feet from the harness. And because she was rather athletic, she was able to just roll right around when she fell off the harness and didn't hurt herself. But they wore a harness with the wires. And it was Jerome Robbins who actually told them how their bodies needed to look. And that flying was choreographed. So it wasn't just that they went around, it was choreographed to make them look as if they were actually flying.
Oh.
So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that also happened was when NBC refilmed it, 3, 4, 5 years ago live, the cameras now are so digitally accurate that you could see the wire the whole time, and it ruined a lot of the fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
For asking. Anybody want to ask anything else? Yeah, Alan, go ahead. Alan Sull.
What was Betty Buckley's reaction when she found out what the director had been doing? That, was she angry? Was she relieved? That's really weird.
Yeah, there was a big sense of relief. I mean, she was very hurt, as you can imagine. But the relief of knowing he was doing it as a director's tool probably was a little more soothing. And of course, she did, get an awful lot of acclaim for the part. So I'm sure she got over it pretty quickly. But that's just the way life goes on sometimes. I saw another hand go up as Alan's went up. I'd be very happy to answer that question. I think it was Linda, iPad 6.
Oh, I already asked the question.
Oh, you asked. All right. Was there anybody else who wanted to know anything? Is there a reason I didn't include Andrew Lloyd Webber? I did include Andrew Lloyd Webber. Cats was Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I mean, we were getting to, in Paris last week, we talked about the Phantom of the Opera. So we have included Andrew Lloyd Webber. Remember, we were talking about locales that created the musicals, not composers who are of a certain place or whatever. There are very few French composers. So, I'm not quite sure. Someone says they can't hear me. I hope someone could hear me. In any event, is there anything else anybody would like to know before we log off? Well, this was fun. I'll see you all in November. Again, if anyone's interested in seeing me every Friday morning, just send me an email. I posted my email out there for you, and I'll tell you how all of that works. Take care, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and stay well.
Thank you.
Great.